This is the Algebra 2 Unit 4 review. Number 1. X squared minus 9x equals 0. So we're solving quadratic equations, and for now we're using the zero product property to do that. So I have to factor. And then after I factor, let me zoom that in one time. After I factor, I take the factors and set those equal to 0. So my answers are x equals 0 and x equals positive 9. Number 2, 5x squared minus 9x plus 4 equals 0. Now this is to factor this one's a trinomial, so it's a little trickier. So I always showed you guys using guess or check. So I told you list all the ways to multiply to the first term, list all the ways to multiply to the back term, and then go ahead and guess. Always start with the two that are closest together and see what happens. So we get 2x and 10x, and that's not going to get us to 9. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try 4 and 1, and that gives us 4x and 5x. That can get us to negative 9 if both of these are negative, and a negative is a positive, so that'll work. So then I take those two and set those equal to 0. Then x equals 4/5 and x equals positive 1. Number 3. First things when it comes to factoring is always take out a GCF. 6x plus 5. Now remember, there's still an x out here. So ask ourselves what multiplies to 5 and adds to 6, and that's 5 and 1. And then we set all three of those factors equal to 0. So our answers are x equals 0, x equals negative 1, and x equals negative 5. Number 4, x squared plus 2x equals 48. So you see this here, this only works if I set it equal to 0, so subtract 48 to both sides. And I'm looking at x squared plus 2x minus 48 equals 0. And then I'm looking at 6 times 8 gets me to 48. So minus 6 and plus 8. I'll let you go ahead and finish that for the sake of time. Set that to 0, set that to 0. So your answers are positive 6 and negative 8. Okay. Number 5 looks like a guess and check trinomial, but you can make this a lot easier on yourself if you realize, okay, that you can factor out a 2. And it's an equation, so I can go ahead and divide by 2. And then I get x squared. I could have done that in the beginning, but wanted to show you could factor it. And ask myself what multiplies to 5, multiplies to 4 and adds to 5, and it's 4 and 1. So x equals 1 and x equals negative 4. Skipping a few steps, just trying to do this in somewhat of a timely manner. And 6. So for number 6 here, you can see it's already factored out, but it's not equal to 0. So I can't really do anything here unless I get it equal to 0. So I'm going to have to FOIL this together, move the 11 over, factor, set those equal to 0. So if I FOIL, I get this. Okay. Oops, sorry, it's positive 11. Subtract 11 to both sides. Okay, and I get x squared plus 6x. So I can go ahead and combine like terms there. 2x minus 35 equals 0. and that's x and x. 7 and 5 does it. If the 5's the -1, so x equals 5 and x equals -7. Okay. Number 7, x to the 4th minus 9x squared equals 0. And we're looking at taking out GCF of x squared. It leaves me with x squared minus 9 equals 0. And then this factors, again, that's a difference of squares. Okay. So it's x squared equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. So our answers are x equals 0, x equals -3, and x equals positive. You can take the square root, but what times itself gets you to 0? It's got to be 0. Okay. Number 8, a lot of people miss this one. Okay. It says x to the 3rd plus 5x squared minus x minus 5 equals 0. So if you remember, when it comes to factoring, you have to always count the terms after you look for a GCF. And if I get 4 terms, I'm going to go and add the opposite there. If there's 4 terms, the only option I got is factoring by grouping. So I take a GCF out of the first 2 terms. I take a GCF out of the second 2 terms. And if the binomials match, that's a GCF, so that comes out. And it leaves me with x squared minus 1 equals 0. And right when I think I'm done, I'm not, because that also factors as a difference of squares. And x equals 5, x equals +1, and x equals -1. Okay. Number 9. Okay. Number 9 is x plus 2 squared minus 36 equals 0. Okay. This is where I'm going to use a substitution. So I'm going to say a squared minus 36 equals 0. A minus 6. A plus 6. So a. Okay. Sorry. Then when I get to there, I got to realize that I subbed in, so I got to sub back in. So x plus 2 minus 6 and x plus 2 plus 6. So I get x minus 4, x plus 8, and x equals 4, and x equals -8. Okay. 10 and 11 are the same type of question, so I'm just going to do number 10. So number 10 is x plus 3 squared plus 6x, or times the quantity x plus 3 plus 5 equals 0. And then I'm going to use a substitution again. Alright, and I realize I get a plus 5, a plus 1. And I'm going to go back and sub in and say x plus 3 plus 5, x plus 3 plus 1. Run out of room here, but x plus 8, 8, and x plus 4 equals 0. So my answers are x equals -8 and x equals -4. Okay. Okay. Now, from here on out, everything pretty much repeats. So number 12 is like number 3. Number 13 is like number 7. Number 14 is like number 6. And 15 is like number 6. And 16 are all like number 6 if you need help with those ones. Okay. So then I'm going to jump to number 17. '17 says identify the x-intercepts. So I get this here, Now remember, it doesn't matter how complex the equation or function, if I want to find an x-intercept, all I do is make the x value 0. And then you can see this is like all the problems we just did. And I set this equal to 0 and that factor equal to 0, and x equals -9/2 and x equals +3. Number 18, y equals 3x squared plus x minus 4, and from here I'm going to have to factor, right? So like I said, I always do guess and check. I'm going to go and start with 2 and 2. I get 2x and 6x. Those are not going to get me to 1x, so that's out. So I'm going to try 4 and 1, and that gets me to 4x and 3x, and that'll work. If this one is the positive one, that means that's the positive and that's the negative. Okay, set these equal to 0, because remember I'm finding intercepts. All right, so x equals -4/3 and x equals +1.